Level 1, delivery driver. You deliver mattresses for $13 an hour, and in 18 years you'll be the getaway driver a dying legend calls when he's got no one else left. Right now you're 22 and broke scuffed New Balance 990s, a Carhartt beanie you've had since high school. You're counting exact change into a laundromat dryer when a man watches your hands and says it flat. You've got a wheelman's hands and a delivery boy's paycheck. Saddest math I've seen all year. His name is Marcus. You don't have a comeback. An hour later, you don't need one. A bank robbery a few blocks over falls apart. The getaway car runs a red and slams into your box truck. And just like that, you're sitting in a wreck with cops seconds away and a stranger's crime in your lap. The robber behind the wheel is knocked out cold. Before you've decided anything, your foot is already on the gas. You pull your truck out of the wreck. 2 of the robbers dive into your cab. You drive them out clean. 4 blocks later, they're gone. One of them left a single driving glove on your seat, a phone number written inside it. You'll need the other one someday. That glove is where it starts. Over the next 18 years, Marcus, the man that number belongs to, turns you into a legendary wheelman and takes everything else you have while he does it. What it costs you to get there is the part nobody tells you yet. Level 2 wheelman. You call the number from the gloves cuff, sitting in the laundromat parking lot with dryer sheets still in your pocket. The glove riding on the dash like it's waiting for you to earn the other one. It's the man from the laundromat. Marcus answering like he already knew you'd call like the wreck was a job interview and you passed. He gives you a time, a street corner, and nothing else. First job. A borrowed Crown Victoria outside a check-cashing place wedged between a Family Dollar and a vape shop. Engine running, 9 minutes on the clock while 2 men you'll never see again empty a drawer. Marcus sits beside you saying nothing, a scratched Timex on one wrist and a stopwatch resting on his knee like a verdict he hasn't decided to hand down yet. You learn the trade by getting it wrong in small ways first. Heel-toe braking so the car doesn't nod its head at every stop. Why a rolled-down window at night makes a plate harder to read off a still camera than a rolled-up one does. How to keep the engine at a low, steady idle so it doesn't stall cold when a second counts more than a gallon of gas. None of it comes from talent. It comes from paying the kind of attention that only shows up once prison stops being theoretical. That first job, a Toledo PD cruiser rolls past at minute 7. You don't gun it. You don't duck. You reach over and pretend to argue with the glove box like a man waiting on his wife, one hand loose on the wheel, and the cruiser keeps going. Because bored is the best disguise there is. Marcus clicks the stopwatch. Doesn't look up. Good hands are the ones that do nothing on time, he says. The second job unravels. A stock boy gets a partial plate outside a pharmacy, and Marcus has you strip the Crown Vic down to bolts in a Upal Landpay off the Anthony Wayne Trail that same night, wiping panels with a rag that used to be a bedsheet. He tells you the only rule that matters while the last bolt's still warm in your hand. Every car you drive today already belongs to a police report. Drive it like it's already been found. You drive the third job that way. A jewelry counter, same strip, different storefront. You beat Marcus's own best time on the route by 4 minutes, and he checks the stopwatch a second time like the number owes him an apology. In the back seat, one of the men laughs low, never once uses your actual name. Kid drives like he's already famous. Nobody else laughs. Marcus's silence after that is louder than the laugh was, and you're starting to learn that his silence is the only grade that ever counts. You don't sleep that night. Not guilt. Something closer to a body finally getting used the way it was built to be used. After 22 years of nothing. 3 jobs. No arrests. A stopwatch that stopped finding reasons to doubt you. Marcus finds you back at the same laundromat a week later. Same dryer. Same quarters you're not bothering to count this time. He doesn't say good job. He never says good job. He sets the second glove on top of the machine and slides it toward you. The same way the first one landed on your seat, no ceremony, no explanation. Trusted accomplice starts Monday. Don't waste it. First title anyone's ever handed you instead of a task. You pull both gloves on right there. Laundromat fluorescence buzzing overhead. Just to feel whether they actually fit. They fit exactly. Level 3, trusted accomplice. You're inside the planning now, not just the getaway. The day before a job, you walk the route on foot at the exact hour it'll happen, timing the light cycles against a stopwatch app, marking which alley's narrow enough to shake a patrol SUV but stay wide enough for a sedan, because that math, wrong by half a car length, doesn't cost you a scraped mirror. It costs you the whole crew. 2 burners now instead of 1. A paper map folded soft along the same 3 creases, routes memorized instead of trusted to a signal. GPS pings a tower, and a tower is a subpoena with a delay timer on it. Marcus only explains that once. You don't ask him to repeat himself. You start seeing the city the way a wheelman sees it. Every Kroger parking lot becomes somewhere to lose a tail in the cart returns. You catch yourself timing the drive-through line at the rallies on Dorr Street, clocking how long the car ahead sits at the window, and you realize you can't turn it off anymore. The job has moved into the part of your brain that used to hold everything else. The warehouse district job teaches you what trusted actually costs. The route crosses an active rail line, and the crossing gives you an 11-second window before the arms start down. You've clocked it 4 times on foot and twice in a borrowed car, and the math says there's room. The math has never once ridden in the back seat with you. You take the crossing with 4 seconds to spare. The arms clip your back bumper on the way down. Behind you, 2 men who've done this longer than you have are making sounds that stopped being words a full block ago. Nobody ever screamed like that at a mattress delivery. Afterward, in a Knights Inn parking lot off I-75, the crews fence the man who turns a finished job into clean. Spendable cash pays you directly for the first time not routed through. Marcus, straight into your palm. A rubber-banded roll with no ceremony attached to it. $2,800, more than 3 weeks of hauling box springs, for 1 afternoon, and a set of railroad arms you can still feel in your molars. You sit with the engine off for a full minute just holding it. Marcus finds out about the direct payment within a day. The way Marcus finds out about everything. He doesn't laugh. The fence pays me, I pay you, he says. That's the arrangement, and the arrangement is the only reason you're not in a cell. You do the math yourself that night, the math he never spells out. Of every dollar your driving earns, Marcus takes his cut before your share ever reaches your hand, and his cut is most of it. The roll stops feeling like pay. It starts feeling like an allowance. Later, driving you back into the city, he says it plainer, almost to the windshield. You don't have a career. You have me. Don't ever confuse the two. You file the sentence away without understanding it. You'll understand it completely in 18 years. He introduces you to a bigger crew that same week, the kind that runs jobs across 3 counties and uses names you're told exactly once. The scar on your right glove is real now, a burn line from gripping the wheel too hard through the crossing. You don't clean it off. You've started liking what it says about you. $2,800 sits differently in a bank account than it does in a fist. You also learn you don't miss the box truck at all, and the not missing should probably worry you more than it does. Level 4, crew driver. A code comes over the scanner that you didn't know 6 months ago and now feel in your spine before your brain finishes translating it. Pursuit initiated. Every rule in the car just changed, and you're the one supposed to change it back. 3-car convoy this time. You're the tail. Your only job is to be interesting enough that a trooper forgets the other 2 cars exist. You're good at it immediately, which turns out to be its own kind of problem. He clocks you outside a big lot's doing 11 over. Nothing dramatic, just enough to be noticed, and you give him exactly what he's asking for 19 miles the wrong way down. A 2-lane state route lined with orange barrels, the unofficial state flower of Ohio 94 miles an hour, with your hands steady at 10 and 2, like a driving instructor's watching, because the job needs you reckless and precise in the same breath. Not fearless. Sirens stopped registering as danger somewhere around job 6. Now they're just a metronome you drive to. The trooper stays glued to your bumper for a dozen of those 19 miles, close enough that you can count the antennas on his trunk in the mirror. You let him think he's winning. You take a construction merge at the last legal second, 2 lanes collapsing into one, and the barrels do what barrels do, they don't move. He has to brake for the same cones you threaded at 90, and the gap you needed opens up like it was scheduled. You didn't lose him with speed. You lost him with patience. You lose him for good inside a Mr. Car Wash you scouted down to the minute. The silver Honda Accord rolls into one bay, hidden by the spray and the spinning brushes. You slip out and into an identical Accord parked 2 bays over same color, different plates. You roll out the far end in that second car and pass his cruiser at the speed limit, while he sits there radioing the plate of a car you've already walked away from. He doesn't glance at you twice. That's the whole job. The cruise cut is $9,000 for 1 afternoon of being loud on purpose. That night, the dashcam clip runs on the 11 o'clock news on WTOL. A gray smear of a sedan doing 94 past orange barrels, while an anchor calls it Pauna. A brazen high-speed evasion, you watch it twice, then again. The footage holds on your taillights half a second longer than it needs to, the way a camera holds on something it's starting to recognize. You don't mention to anyone that you watched it 3 times. Marcus calls at sunrise, doesn't ask how the job went. He already saw what you saw. You're a name now, he says, flat. The way he says the things that actually matter. Not letters yet. A shape. Shapes get remembered. A pause longer than his usual ones. Remembered gets you caught. So get better before that happens. You want to ask better at what? You don't. His silences have started carrying more weight than his sentences, and this one's carrying something you'd rather not have confirmed out loud tonight. You take a different route home, for no reason you'd admit to. Checking your mirrors like the old man in the parked car might already be behind you, taking notes nobody assigned. $9,000. One clip. Half a second of taillight that a camera decided to keep. You don't sleep. It isn't guilt. It's arithmetic, and arithmetic doesn't care how good your reflexes are. Level 5, lead wheelman. The alarm tricks 90 seconds early, and every plan you spent a week building turns into a story about a plan you used to have. You're running your own crew, now your call on cars, exits, timing, and yours alone to answer for when it comes apart. It comes apart 11 minutes into a credit union job out in Parisburg when a teller hits a silent trigger nobody flagged in the walkthrough, and the exit route you scouted twice becomes a route with 2 units already closing on it. You don't have a new plan. You have a furniture outlet loading dock you memorized years back hauling box springs, half remembered. Mostly instinct, and 90 seconds is too little time to trust it, and too little time to doubt it either. You take it anyway. The problem with an unscouted route is that you're driving and praying at the same time, and praying takes both hands. You blow a 4-way stop into a neighborhood full of speed humps you didn't know were there, and the car goes airborne for half a second over the first one. Everything in the trunk slamming up into the lid. A porch light comes on. A dog loses its mind. Somewhere a Ring doorbell is recording a sedan it will never identify. You keep your foot in it. A shuttered Chevy dealership's back lot swallows the sedan whole, rows of unsold Silverados under sodium light, and you clip a display truck's mirror doing 40 through a gap built for a delivery van, not a getaway car. The dealership's own security gate starts rolling shut behind a parts truck the exact second you clear it, and the lead pursuit unit eats 11 seconds of chain link that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with luck wearing a disguise. You don't get to enjoy it. A second unit picks you up 4 blocks later, close enough this time that you catch a face in the mirror instead of just headlights. You kill your own lights on a residential street at 2 in the morning, coast the last 100 yards on nothing but momentum into a garage whose door is already 3/4 down, engine off before you're fully inside, hands still gripping a wheel that isn't moving anymore. Engine off, lights off, heart at 190. The cruiser rolls past without slowing. You watch its taillights shrink through a 6-inch gap under the door and don't move again for 4 full minutes, not hiding anymore, just waiting for your body to catch up. The cruise cut is $41,000 split 5 ways. Your share alone triples your best month, and it should feel like more than it does. It feels normal. That's what actually scares you. The fact that your pulse dropped from 190 in under a minute, like your body's already filed the whole night under routine. Marcus shows up 2 days later, unannounced, having heard about the dealership stunt from someone you'll never be able to name. He doesn't sit down. "That's elite work," he says, looking at your hands instead of your face, doing math again. "Shame you're not ready for elite money." You are. You both know you are. Not ready is just the phrase he uses for the years he plans to keep skimming the top off everything you earn. He pockets the difference and calls it patience. After he leaves, you notice the seam on your right glove has split along the thumb, a scar from gripping the wheel too hard through the dealership gap, and you don't stitch it. You wear it torn for a while. It feels honest, the first thing about this job that's ever told you the truth. Level 6, elite wheelman. 9 years in, and you're already 3 states from home when the armored truck's alarm cuts loose, which tells you Marcus finally said yes to something he'd been saying no to for a year. Elite work. Interstate jobs, crews who fly you in and never ask your last name, contracts that exist for exactly as long as it takes to drive away from them. You learn the tradecraft the way you've learned everything since the laundromat, fast, expensive, and by watching what happens to the people who learn it slow. A stolen V1 gets swapped through the right chop shop in under 6 hours if you know which one. An unmarked cruiser gives itself away before its lights ever come on tire brand, antenna count, the specific overcooked stillness of a Dodge Charger trying too hard to look bored in traffic. You learn to fuel up only at truck stops off the interstate, a Pilot or a Flying J, because the pumps there see 1,000 strangers a day and the cameras point at the diesel lanes, not the cars. You pay cash inside. You buy a coffee and a bag of corn nuts you don't want, because a man who buys something is a man the clerk stops watching. The armored truck job goes loud in a way small jobs never do. Local units first, then county, then an unmarked federal tail that doesn't announce itself until it's already 3 cars back and closing the gap without hurrying. 61 miles, 3 jurisdictions. You shed each one in sequence, not by outrunning them but by understanding that a county line isn't just ink on a map. It's a radio dead zone where one agency's chatter drops out right as the next one's picks up. And for 4 or 5 seconds in that gap, you're a car nobody's currently discussing. The last mile you drive straight into a Mannheim auction mid-sale. 200 nearly identical trucks under one roof, engines cutting off around you like a held breath letting go. You abandon the hot one in row after row of its own reflection and walk out the side gate in a $40 starter windbreaker, moving as fast as a man late for a truck he already paid for. The federal tail circles the lot for 20 minutes. You're 2 exits away by then, in a different vehicle, Bob Seger on the classic rock station like nothing happened at all. The cruise cut is $130,000, wired through 3 shell accounts before you've finished the drive home. That night you stitch the torn seam on your glove yourself for the first time badly. It splits again by morning. You do it again tighter, and it holds. A week later, a federal task force opens a file. No name in it yet. Just a pattern across 4 states and a single line some agent typed, repeated back to you secondhand weeks later, the way anything that actually matters always seems to arrive. The driver. Marcus reads about it before you do and calls that same night, delivering the sentence that's going to live in your chest for years without fully leaving it. The day they give you a title without a name, you've already made it to most wanted. A pause, the kind he uses instead of a period. Question is whether you make it there alive. You don't sleep. Not fear exactly the cold arithmetic of understanding that a file with no name in it is a file with room left to fill, and you're the only thing left standing that can fill it. Level 7, Master Wheelman. 4 voices are talking in your earpiece at once, and you're the only one responsible for keeping all 4 of them breathing by the end of the night. The syndicate doesn't run single cars anymore. It runs convoys, and you're not driving one. You're routing all of them, calling turns to drivers who've never met you and never will. Trusting your voice the way you once trusted a stopwatch on Marcus's knee. You build a reputation the syndicate starts calling ghost routing 17 alternate exits mapped before a job even starts. So no single checkpoint or scanner hit can trap the whole convoy at once. 17 isn't a number anyone assigns you. It's the number below which you stopped being able to sleep. You run the routes at night now, alone, in a leased Camry that might be the most boring car ever built. Driving them at the speed limit with a gas station notebook on the passenger seat. You mark the gas stations with working air pumps, the alleys with dumpsters you could wedge a pursuit car behind, the one stretch of Detroit Avenue where the streetlights have been out since spring. The city keeps a second map now, and you're the only one holding it. A rival driver named Petrov, someone you've shared a garage with twice without either of you saying much. 2 years into being the second best wheelman in a city that only remembers the first. Decides the fastest fix for that math is making sure you don't survive a shared job. He tips police early, quietly, hoping the fall lands on the whole convoy, you included. You find out the way you find out everything now, too late to stop it, just in time to survive it. 4 cars, 1 leak, and a route that dead ends into the Lucas County Fair mid-carnival. A Ferris wheel lit up against a sky that has no idea what's about to drive through it. You reroute live, weaving 4 cars through a pedestrian midway and a service lane built for golf carts. Threading gaps a foot wider than your mirrors, while a funnel cake stand blurs past a stroller 3 inches from a window. Every driver gets out clean. Every civilian walks away untouched. You don't learn that for 11 minutes. Those 11 minutes are the longest of your career. You don't retaliate against Petrov with anything that could be called violence. You don't need to. You hand the dash cam footage of his own tip-off call to the syndicate's fixer. Quiet, clinical. And Petrov is cut out of every job in a 4-state radius by the following Tuesday. You never speak to him again. You don't need that either. The syndicate's boss thanks you in person, which almost never happens, in a back room that still smells like cigars nobody's smoking anymore. Marcus is there. Older than you remember, half a step slower getting out of his chair. Gray New Balances on his feet now instead of the boots, watching the syndicate's boss shake your hand instead of his. Whatever crosses his face isn't pride. It's a man doing math and hating the answer. Afterward, alone with you in a hallway, he says it quiet. I made you. Every trick in those hands I put there. A pause. People are starting to forget that. You're starting to forget it too. It isn't a compliment. It's a man reminding you who he thinks owns the tools and warning you what he does with tools that forget. You put your hand out anyway. And for the first time since the laundromat, the two gloves have worn into a true match, same deep scars, same cracked leather. To you, it looks like you finally caught him. To him, you'll understand too late. It looked like the day you became a threat worth removing. You go home and don't check the news, don't check the file, don't check anything at all. For the first time in years, the silence in your apartment doesn't feel like a countdown. It should have. Level 8, Most Wanted Driver. Your Ohio BMV photo is on the evening news before you even know an informant flipped. The file with no name in it has one now. Yours. Overnight you go from a taillight blur on a dashcam to the top of a federal wanted list, and the silence that used to feel like safety starts sounding, very suddenly, like the last quiet minute before an alarm goes off. You have 48 hours to become someone else, and you spend every one of them driving your own life into hiding using nothing but the tricks you built stealing other people's exits. Every safe house burned, every car retired. Years of aliases dismantled by your own hands faster than it took you to build the first one. No name, just a face now. You dye your hair in a Motel 6 bathroom with a box of Just for Men that comes out a color no human being was ever born with. You throw out the Carhartt beanie, the one thing you'd kept since before Marcus. Since before any of this, because it's in the BMV photo, in the news still frame, in every description going out over 11 agencies' radios. Losing the van, the safe houses, the cars. None of it lands. Losing the beanie does. It's stupid. You feel it anyway. The chase that finds you 2 days later becomes the biggest pursuit the region has ever logged. 11 agencies. A helicopter that never loses altitude no matter how many turns you take. Spike strips laid across I-75, I-475, and the Ohio Turnpike by officers who've clearly been briefed on exactly who they're looking for. You survive it by doing the one thing none of them planned for. You drive straight into a flooded underpass on the Anthony Wayne Trail at speed, water blowing up over the hood in a wall no chopper camera can see through. And you hold the wheel steady through spray and static in a silence underwater that feels, for 4 full seconds, like the only honest quiet you've had in years. You resurface 4 miles downstream in a car nobody's looking for yet. Engine coughing, clothes soaked through, hands steady on a wheel that has no business still working. The steady hands again. Always the steady hands. 2 days later, a single detective finds you at a super 8-2 states over, not through new evidence. Through old habits you didn't know you still had. He's alone, tired. He looks at you like a man who's rehearsed this exact conversation 100 times and is disappointed by how ordinary you look in person. You give him a name, not yours. A low-level errand runner's, someone who won't be hard to find and won't have much to say when they do. He believes it just long enough. You buy 6 hours before he realizes the trade was a lie, and 6 hours is enough, because 6 hours is all you've ever needed since a getaway car ran a red light into poor. Your box truck and your hands decided something your brain hadn't caught up to yet. Here's the part that takes you longest to understand. The detective didn't have new evidence. He had your routes, your safe houses, the exact gaps in the exact fences, the ones you never wrote down for anyone but the man who taught you to find them. One person alive knew all of it. One person built half of it with you. Marcus sold you, traded your name to the feds to carve years off a case closing in on him, and let them hang your face on every screen in the state. The man who swore he made you unmade you in an afternoon for paper. He even calls, offers you an exit route out of the country, a border contact, no questions, his voice gone soft for the first time in 18 years. For half a second you almost believe it's guilt. Then you remember who drew the map, and that a route Marcus builds is a route Marcus can sell twice. You hang up. You run on your own. On the skills he gave you, turned against the man who gave them. You keep both gloves this time, not as a bond, as a reason. You don't look back. Whatever's standing behind you isn't yours anymore, and neither is he. Level 9, legendary wheelman. 18 months later, under a name that isn't yours, In a country you never planned on liking, where the gas station coffee isn't Speedway and never will be, message reaches you through the one dead drop channel Marcus ever taught you and never once told you he'd use himself. It's him. Of course it's him. The syndicate finally learned what you learned in that motel 2 states over, that Marcus keeps himself free by handing other people to the law. Now it's his name in someone else's mouth. He's cornered, out of favors, out of people left to use. One last driver, no fee. Just the truth that he has nowhere else to turn. He taught you never to come back for anyone. You come back anyway, not for the reason he's praying for. The 18 months fall off you the second your hands find a wheel. The mattress delivery driver Marcus once roasted over exact change is the best wheelman alive now, and he's about to learn he built the wrong man to be his last hope. You get him out of the first roadblock. You get him out of the second. The whole way, he talks grateful, almost warm, the way he never was when it might have cost him something. At the third, the choke point, you'd have picked yourself, the one you spot on instinct. Now you stop the car. Ahead, in the dark, headlights come on one pair at a time, the syndicate, waiting exactly where you told them he'd be. Marcus looks at the trap, then at you. For once, you get to watch him do the math on his own face. Get out, you tell him. You set one glove on the dash beside him, the one he handed you in a laundromat 18 years ago, the mark he put on you the day he decided he owned you. You'll need the other one someday. Saddest math I've seen all year. Then you're gone on foot into a city that never learned your name, while the man who made you and sold you finds out what it cost to be the one nobody comes back for. You disappear the way he taught you, clean, quiet, untraceable. The last lesson he gave you, spent erasing him for good. Months later, in a laundromat in a city you never told anyone you'd be in. You watch a kid count quarters into a dryer slot, exact change, no fumbling, New Balance 990s just as scuffed as yours used to be. Like his hands already know something his life hasn't caught up to yet. You know exactly what Marcus saw that day and exactly what he'd say. There's a phone number written inside the glove in your pocket. You just haven't decided yet whether saying it makes you him. If you like this story, subscribe for more.